I'm going to read from this book. Okay, I opened it at page 131. It's in a chapter entitled Unstoppable Incentives, and this is within that chapter, it's a little subheading. It's called The $100 Trillion Opportunity. In 1830, the first passenger railway opened between Liverpool and Manchester. Building this marvel of engineering had required an Act of Parliament. The route needed bridges, cut-throughs, elevated sections over boggy ground, and settling of seemingly endless property disputes, all titanic challenges. The railway's opening was attended by dignitaries including the Prime Minister and Liverpool's MP, William Huskisson. During the celebration, the crowd stood on the tracks to welcome the new marvel as it approached. So unfamiliar was this striking machine that people failed to appreciate the speed of the oncoming train, and Huskisson himself was killed under the locomotive's wheels. To the horrified spectators, George Stephenson's steam-powered rocket was monstrous, an alien belching terrifying blur of modernity and machinery. Yet it was also a sensation, faster than anything then experienced. Growth was rapid. 250 passengers a day had been forecast. 1,200 a day were using it after only a month. Hundreds of tons of cotton could be hauled from the Liverpool docks to the Manchester mills with a minimum of fuss in record time. For 5 years, it was delivering a dividend of 10%, presaging an 1830s mini boom in railway construction. The government saw an opportunity for more. In 1844, a young MP called William Gladstone put forward the Railway Regulation Act to supercharge investment. Companies submitted hundreds of applicants to build new railways in just a few months in 1845. While the rest of the stock market flatlined, railway companies boomed. Investors piled in. At their peak, railway stocks accounted for more than 2/3 of total stock market value. Within a year, the crash had started. The market eventually bottomed out in 1850, 66% lower than its peak. Easy profit, not for the first or last time, had made people greedy and foolish. Thousands lost everything. Nonetheless, a new era had arrived with the boom. With the locomotive, an older and bucolic world was torn to shreds in a blitz of viaducts and tunnels, cuttings and great stations, coal smoke and whistles. From a few scattered lines, the investment craze created the outlines of an integrated national network. It shrank the country. In the 1830s, a journey between London and Edinburgh took days in an uncomfortable stagecoach. By the 1850s, it took a single train under 12 hours. Connection to the rest of the country meant towns, cities, and regions boomed. Tourism, trade, and family life were transformed. Among many other impacts, it created the need for a standardized national time to make sense of the timetables. And it was all done thanks to a relentless thirst for profit. The railway boom of the 1840s was arguably the greatest bubble in history. But in the annals of technology, it is more norm than exception. There was nothing inevitable about the coming of the railways, but there was something inevitable about the chance to make money. Carlota Perez sees an equivalent freezy phase as being part of every major technology rollout for at least the last 200 years, from the original telephone cables to contemporary high bandwidth internet. The boom never lasts, but the raw speculative drive produces lasting change, a new technological substrata. The truth is that the curiosity of academic researchers or the will of motivated governments is insufficient to propel new breakthroughs into the hands of billions of customers. Science has to be converted into useful and desirable products for it to truly spread far and wide. Put simply, most technology is made to earn money. If anything, this is perhaps the most persistent, entrenched, dispersed incentive of all. Profit drives the Chinese entrepreneur to develop moldings for radically redesigned phone. It pushes the Dutch farmer to find new robotics and greenhouse technologies to grow tomatoes year-round in the cool climate of the North Sea. It leads suave investors on Palo Alto's Sand Hill Road to invest millions of dollars in untested young entrepreneurs. While the motivations of their individual contributors may vary, Google is building AI and Amazon is building robots because as public companies with shareholders to please, they see them as ways to make a profit. And this, the potential for profit, is built on something even more long-lasting and robust: raw demand. People both want and need the fruits of technology. People need food or refrigeration or telecoms to live their lives. They might want AC units or a new kind of shoe design requiring some intricate new manufacturing technique. Or some kind of revolutionary new food colouring method for cupcakes, or any of the innumerable everyday ends to which technology is put to use in this way. Either way, technology helps provide, and its creators take their cut. The sheer breadth of human wants and needs, and the countless opportunities to profit from them, are integral to the story of technology and will remain so in the future. This is no bad thing. Go back just a few hundred years, and economic growth was almost non-existent. Living standards stagnated for centuries at unfathomably worse levels than today. In the last 200 years, economic output is up more than 300 times. Per capita GDP has risen at least 13-fold over the same period. And in the very richest parts of the world, it has risen 100-fold. At the beginning of the 19th century, almost everyone lived in extreme poverty. Now, globally, this sits at around 9%. Exponential improvements in the human condition, once impossible, are routine. At root, this is a story of systematically applying science and technology in the name of profit. This in turn drove huge leaps in output and living standards. In the 19th century, inventions like Cyrus McCormick's threshing machine led to a 500% increase in output of wheat per hour. Isaac Singer's sewing machine meant sewing a shirt went from taking 14 hours to just 1 hour. In developed economies, people work far less than they used to for far more reward. In Germany, for example, annual working hours have decreased by nearly 60% since 1870. Technology entered a virtuous circle of creating wealth that could be reinvested in further technological development, all of which drove up living standards. But none of these long-term goals were really the primary objective of any single individual. In Chapter 1, I argued that almost everything around you is a product of human intelligence. Here's a slight correction. Much of what we see around us is powered by human intelligence in direct pursuit of monetary gain. This engine has created a world economy worth $85 trillion and counting. From the pioneers of the Industrial Revolution to the Silicon Valley entrepreneurs of today, technology has a magnetic incentive in the form of serious financial rewards. This coming wave represents the greatest economic prize in history. It is a consumer cornucopia and potential profit center without parallel. Anyone looking to contain it must explain how a distributed global capitalist system of unbridled power can be persuaded to temper its acceleration, let alone leave it on the table. When a corporation automates insurance claims or adopts a new manufacturing technique, it creates efficiency savings or improves the product, boosting profits and attracting new customers. Once an innovation delivers a competitive advantage like this, everyone must either adopt it, leapfrog it, switch focus, or lose market share and eventually go bust. The attitude around this dynamic in technology businesses, in particular, is simple and ruthless. Build the next generation of technology or be destroyed. No surprise then that corporations play such a large role in the coming wave. Tech is by far the biggest single category in S&P 500, constituting 26% of the index. Between them, the major tech groups have cash on hand equivalent to the GDP of an economy like Taiwan's or Poland's. Capital expenditure like R&D spending is enormous, exceeding the oil majors, previously the biggest spenders. Anyone following the industry of late will have witnessed an increasingly intense commercial race around AI, with firms like Google, Microsoft, and OpenAI vying week by week to launch new products. Hundreds of billions of dollars of venture capital and private equity are deployed into countless startups. Investments in AI technologies alone has hit $100 billion a year. These big numbers do actually matter. Huge quantities of capital expenditure, R&D spending, venture capital, and private equity investment, unmatched by any other sector or any government outside China and the United States, are the raw fuel powering the coming wave. All of this money demands a return, and the technology it creates is the means of getting it. As with the Industrial Revolution, potential economic rewards are enormous. Estimates are hard to intuit. PwC forecasts AI will add 15.7 trillion to the global economy by 2030. McKinsey forecasts a $4 trillion boost from biotech over the same period. Boosting world robot installations 30% above a baseline forecast could unleash a $5 trillion dividend, a sum bigger than Germany's entire output. Especially when other sources of growth are increasingly scarce, these are strong incentives. With profits this high, interrupting the gold rush is likely to be incredibly challenging. Are these predictions justified? The numbers are certainly eye-watering. Plucking huge numbers out of the near future is easier to do on paper, but over a slightly longer time frame, they are not entirely unreasonable. The total addressable market here eventually extends, like the first or second industrial revolution to the entire world economy. Someone in the late 18th century would have been incredulous at the idea of a 100-fold increase in per capita GDP. It would have seemed ludicrous even to contemplate. Yet it happened. Given all those forecasts of the fundamental areas addressed by the coming wave, even a 10 to 15% boost to the world economy in the next decade might be conservative. Over the longer term, it is likely much bigger than that. Consider that the world economy grew sixfold in the latter half of the 20th century. Even if growth slowed to just a third of that level over the next 50 years, it will still unlock around $100 trillion of additional GDP. Think about the impact of the new wave of AI systems. Large language models enable you to have a useful conversation with an AI about any topic in fluent natural language. Within the next couple of years, whatever your job, you will be able to consult an on-demand expert. Ask it about your latest ad campaign or product design. Quiz it on the specifics of a legal dilemma. Isolate the most effective elements of a pitch. Solve a thorny logistical question. Get a second opinion on a diagnosis. Keep probing and testing, getting ever more detailed answers, grounded in the very cutting edge of knowledge, delivered with exceptional nuance. All of the world's knowledge, best practices, precedent, and computational power will be available, tailored to you, to your specific needs and circumstances, instantaneously and effortlessly. It is a leap of cognitive potential at least as great as the introduction of the internet. And that is before you even get into the implications of something like ACI and the modern Turing test. Little is ultimately more valuable than intelligence. Intelligence is the wellspring and the director, architect, and facilitator of the world economy. The more we expand the range and nature of intelligences on offer, the more growth should be possible. With generalist AI, plausible economic scenarios suggest it could lead not just to a boost in growth, but to a permanent acceleration in the rate of growth itself. In blunt economic terms, AI could, long term, be the most valuable technology yet, more so when coupled with the potential of synthetic biology, robotics, and the rest. Those investments aren't passive. They will play a big part in making it become so, after self-fulfilling prophecy. Another self-fulfilling prophecy fulfilled. Those trillions represent a huge value add and opportunity for society, delivering better living standards for billions, as well as immense profits for private interests. Either way, that creates an ingrained incentive to keep finding and rolling out new technologies. I'm going to stop there because that's the end of that subsection of the chapter. The next bit is global challenges. It's another interesting chapter by the look of it, but I won't read it right now. See you. It's that book. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. See you later. See you soon. I'll look for another book now.